Murad III was the 12th Sultan of the Ottoman dynasty. In 1546, he was born in Manisa, as the first son of Sultan Selim II and Nurbanu Sultan. His father, Selim II, was still a Sehzade at his birth, and was performing his duties as the provincial governor in Manisa. His grandfather, Suleiman the Magnificent, was the renowned Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. And despite his old age, Sultan Suleiman took great care of his grandson. Even during his education, Sultan Suleiman appointed him as the Sancakbeyi of Akşehir in 1558. In 1566, when Murad was 20, his grandfather, Suleiman the Magnificent, died, and his father Selim II ascended the throne. And according to Ottoman tradition, he was then sent to govern the province of Manisa as the first candidate for the throne. He was educated and raised by his teacher, Sehzade Effendi, who was a famous scholar and historian of his time. A Venetian ambassador of his time described about Sehzade Murad in his notes as follows: Murad was a talented, well-educated, highly religious prince, and loved by his father and other notables. He was fluent in Arabic and Persian, and also had an interest in mysticism and poetry. Murad III was a religious person, hence he mostly led a life based on the rules of Sharia. In many different sources, it is written that the Sultan had more than 500 beautiful concubines in his harem, and had 135 children. Although different things come to mind when you hear these numbers, but there is an interesting story behind these many concubines and children. Today in this video, you'll get to know about the Ottoman Sultan Murad III. Who was he, and why he had more than 100 children. But before going further, it's our humble request to the viewers to subscribe to the channel, and do like and share the video. A few clicks of yours will not cost you anything, but it will motivate us, and help our channel to grow. We really appreciate and regard your support. And please, give your feedback in the comments section below. While he was a prince in Manisa, Murad III met a woman, who we can say was the love of his life. She was presented to him as a gift by his cousin Aisha Sultan, who was the granddaughter of Sultan Suleiman and Harem Sultan, through their only daughter Murad Sultan. The name of this woman was Sehzade Sultan, who later even affected the reign of Murad. His first son named Mehmed was born from Sehzade Sultan in Manisa. In the year 1574, he received the news of the death of his father Sultan Selim II. He immediately went to the capital Istanbul, and took the throne as the new Sultan of the empire. The first act he did as Sultan was to order the execution of his 5 younger brothers at once. During the first 5 or 6 years of his reign, Sultan Murad III was closely involved in state affairs and avoided the harem life. He was loyal to his favorite Sehzade Sultan, as he was before becoming the Sultan, and preferred a monogamous life with her. However, his act of giving this much value to Sehzade Sultan was objected and disapproved by his mother Nurbanu Sultan, who was in charge of the harem as Valide Sultan. She was disturbed and worried about Sehzade's influence over her son. Therefore, history had seen many fights between Sehzade Sultan and Nurbanu Sultan. By the year 1579, even after 5 years of his accession to the throne, Sultan Murad III had no heir other than Shahzade Mehmed. Using this as an excuse, that Murad needed more sons to succeed him, in case his only son Mehmed died young. Nurbanu Sultan advised Murad III to take other concubines for the betterment of the dynasty. A personality element of Sultan Murad III was that he could not say no either. In fact, the Sultan's inability to reject people has even been the subject of many historical sources. For example, a German theologian, Selim II, who was in Istanbul at that time and wrote about Ottoman life, talks about Murad III in his work called Journey to the City of Sultans. He said, "Sultan Murad III is fond of collecting wealth, generous to his beloved women and children, and has a cheerful disposition. He doesn't like to spill blood, and the word no rarely comes out of his mouth. He is fond of pleasure, loved music and dance, and musicians, dancers, and other artists gathered around him." So, to get her son away from Safiye Sultan and to take control over him again, Nurbanu Sultan started to present him the beautiful girls from all over the world, but in no vein. Nurbanu Sultan blamed Safiye Sultan that she is using witchcraft for taking Murad in her control, and to make him impotent so she could stop him from taking other concubines. According to some historians, Nurbanu Sultan asked the court physicians to prepare a successful cure for her son so he could have more children. But the side effect of the medicine was that Sultan Murad's desire to have women increased. Another thing that is famous about Sultan Murad III was that he preferred not to travel on horseback like his grandfather Suleiman the Magnificent, but to live in the palace like his father Selim II. He was the second Ottoman Sultan who never went on campaign during his reign. After he became the Sultan, he did not even step out of the borders of Istanbul for 20 years. The Ottoman historians also wrote that during the final years of his reign, he did not even leave the Topkapi Palace. In fact, in many sources, it is written that the Sultan did not even go out to the imperial mosque to attend the Friday prayer for almost 2 consecutive years, which was an unprecedented breaking of the Ottoman custom. Whenever he planned to go out to Friday prayer, he changed his mind after hearing of suspected plots by the Janissaries to dethrone him once he left the palace. Murad III, who was confined to the palace, withdrew from state affairs, and spent most of his time in the harem with the concubines his mother brought for him. He did not leave the harem until his death on January 16, 1595. He was assumed to be died from natural causes in the Topkapi Palace at the age of 48. At his death, he left behind 26 girls and 20 boys from different women. It is said that more than 10 of his concubines were pregnant at the time of his death. But the throne would be assigned to the first prince Sehzade Mehmed. When Mehmed III ascended the throne, he first ordered the execution of his other 19 brothers. Some historians argue that, because of the all situation between Nurbanu and Safiye Sultan, and the other that, he spent almost all his time in the palace. These were the notable reasons that Sultan Murad had more than 100 children, though most of them died in infancy. He was buried in a tomb next to the Hagia Sophia. There are 54 sarcophaguses in the tomb of the Sultan. His wives and children are also buried in the same mausoleum. Sultan Murad III was on the throne for 21 years. Although it is said that he was under the influence of the women in his harem and his courtiers, his reign saw the lengthy wars. Signs of weakness also appeared during his period. But the reign of Sultan Murad III reached the peak of its power and was considered as a glorious period of the Ottoman Empire.